Hello, my name is Kaylee Kipe, and I am the lead consultant and project manager at Odoo, an Odoo partner located in the United States. And today we're talking about a very interesting topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is payment fraud detection using Signifyd. So, let's talk about what chargebacks are. Essentially, chargebacks are the reversal of a charge at the cardholder's bank based on the request of the cardholder, which is really all to say that through a dispute that the cardholder can open with their bank, the customer can have the money returned to their card or the transaction completely reversed. So this is intended as a form of consumer protection. And the reason being here is that if a card is lost or stolen and then used for purchases, chargebacks are a way to protect the victims of fraud from some of the financial impact of that fraud. So, how can a good thing like protecting victims of financial fraud impact your business? Well, essentially, chargebacks often leave e-commerce companies caught in the crosshairs of payment fraud. They're left with two choices. Either they can ship orders as they come in, knowing that there will be some chargebacks at various points, and resign themselves to both the loss of cost of goods and revenue as just a fact of life for running their business. The second option that's available to them is they can dedicate significant internal resources, such as an order manager, to assess each order as it comes in for signs of fraud before they ship goods. However, some fraudulent orders may still slip through because, after all, we are only human. So, is there a better way? Well, we're in the 21st century, so of course there's a better way to manage this. Odoo has developed a fully integrated solution between Odoo and Signifyd, which is an automated payment fraud detection platform. So when an order is placed on your website, key pieces of information about the customer and the last four digits of the card used are sent to Signifyd. Signifyd helps thousands of retailers protect themselves from payment fraud by aggregating data and using advanced processing algorithms to detect anomalies such as significant amount of purchasing in a short period of time or a sudden change in the location to which orders for a customer are delivered. Signifyd then guarantees safe orders and reject orders that trigger fraud alerts. If a guaranteed order results in a chargeback, Signifyd is responsible for reimbursing the retailer for that chargeback. So let's get in and start taking a look at the configuration and the outcomes of using Odoo's Signifyd Odoo connector. So here we are in an Odoo v14 database. Go ahead and increase the size there a little bit so we can all see what we're working on. Okay, so we will search for Signifyd and we will see this website configuration option pop up here. This is where we will create our Signifyd connectors. So in Signifyd, you will see in your settings, if you go to your name and then click on settings, you will see all of the teams that you have as well as their associated API keys. So let's start with this one right here. So I'm going to grab the team name. We can name it whatever we'd like up here. This is for our reference. And then we put the team and username from Signifyd. And we will also grab the associated API key, just the parts we want here, and plug that in. And then optionally, you can add a user or more than one user here to receive notifications when a Signifyd order is declined. So when an order is declined, you can have a user or set of users receive an activity for them, which allows them to be notified that they need to take next steps with this order. For example, they may need to cancel the order or contact the customer to let them know that they will not be shipping the order because it triggered a fraud alert. So let's go ahead and set up Ella here to receive decline notifications. Then we will click on Register Webhooks. So when we do this, we will see that in Signifyd, under notifications, we have 3 new webhooks that have been created, one for each event type. So it is worth noting that you can only have one event type webhook per team. So if I try to do this again, then I will get an error because those webhooks already exist for that team, and you would need to delete those webhooks and then re-register them. All right, so let's go ahead and close those notifications, and let's place a couple of orders and see what happens. Okay, so our next step here is to configure the website with this Signifyd connector. So we do need to get into debug to see the website menu under configuration here. So we'll go into websites, and then we will select the website that we want to be associated with a specific Signifyd connector, and we will select it here and save. All right, so now we can go to the front end as a customer, place a few orders, and take a look at the outcomes. All right, so here we are logged in as a customer to our website. And we have a pretzel. Let's go ahead and process checkout. We'll use our card on file here, make it really quick and easy. Okay, so if we go into the back end as an internal user, and let's go ahead and take a look at the orders here. We will see that we have an order right here for that customer that we just placed on the front end. And you'll also see that the guarantee status here is set to approved. So if we click on this, that just gives us from the tree view a really easy way to see which orders have been approved or declined based on their Signifyd status. So if we come in here, we will see that it posts a chatter when the Signifyd status is updated. So we have an indication of exactly when those status changes occur. Additionally, we have our Signifyd score right up here that we can click on. And when we click on that, we get some additional information about the Signifyd case. So not only do we have the score from Signifyd and it's highlighted in green because it's an approved order, but we also have the Signifyd case number right here. And if we click on this, and this will jump us to the Signifyd case as well, just because we're on a demo account here. So it jumps us to that case so we have quick access to it and can review anything, or if we disagree with the status that Signifyd assigned to it, then we can manage that in Signifyd. Okay, so that's an approved order. And if we go out here and we click on the delivery order, we will also see that we have an approved smart button up here, again giving us an indication for the inventory users that they can proceed with shipping this order. And if you click on that, you get the same Signifyd case details. Now let's go ahead and place an order that may be declined by Signifyd. So we're going to add this wedding cake to our cart. And let's just purchase something like 100 of these. Quite the sale order total. All right, and coming in here, we can refresh this. We don't have a guarantee status yet. And we click on this sale order. So we don't have a Signifyd score yet. That's why it's in red and it has a score of 0. We're still waiting for the webhooks to register an update to the status from Signifyd. And if I click back out here, just as easily could have refreshed the page, but I want to keep on my nice breadcrumbs here. We can see that the guaranteed status is now declined, and we also see our next activity scheduled here because of the user that we configured to receive decline activities. So our Signifyd score up here is in orange. So that's telling us that this is not approved. It has a low score. We also again see that it was posted to chatter. And if we click on that, we have the same things that we expect and we showed previously, the ability to jump to the case in Signifyd, and we also see this declined status. So if we go to the delivery order for this order that's been declined by Signifyd, we will see that we have a smart button in red telling us to hold. We should not ship this order because it is not approved by Signifyd to do so. So you'll see this on hold either while we're still waiting for a Signifyd case response, or if the response has been received but it has been declined. So as Ella would receive this notification. She would come in here, she would mark this as done, she would notify the customer, cancel the sale order, and address any downstream consequences that may also need to be addressed given that we are no longer going to be fulfilling this sale order. Okay, so we've gone through that. Now let's take a look at having multiple websites with different Signifyd connectors for Signifyd orders to go through different teams. So we're still in debug here. Let's go into Signifyd and we will create a new connector. And we will grab this information out of Signifyd just as we did previously. I guess my naming convention for my teams isn't quite as we would expect it to be, but that's okay. I don't need anybody to receive decline notices for this one. We'll say, go ahead and save this and then register our webhooks. So again, we get the notification that our webhooks were successfully registered, so that is good. And if we come in here, we will see that we have 3 new webhooks, this time for our new team. One more step, as previously discussed. Let's go into our websites here, and we are going to associate Odoo Suites, which is the hotel portion of this business, with our new Signifyd connector that we just created. This one. Okay. Go ahead and dismiss that, and then let's place a new order on that website. We will add this king size room to our cart. Not logged in this time, so you get to see the full checkout process. Using test cards here, not to worry. All right, so shifting back to the back end again, let's go to our website orders, and we will see this one right here. And we don't have a status back from Signifyd yet, but we do now. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look in Signifyd and see how we can see that those went to 2 different teams. So if we go back out to our console here, we're going to see all of the transactions that have taken place across all of the teams that we have access to, but we can further filter this and we could say just the Odoo Suites team. And we will only see that one transaction, which is the one that we just put through on that website. All right. So the last thing I want to take a look at, we've seen how you can have orders go from the website through different Signifyd connectors. You could also have a website that doesn't have a Signifyd connector associated with it, unless you don't send those website orders through Signifyd. But what about admin placed orders? So let's go ahead and take a look at an admin placed order here. So admin placed orders will not go through Signifyd unless they are associated with a website that has a Signifyd connector. So if you would like your admin orders to go through Signifyd, then you simply need to have a website set up. Yeah, which the field is not visible without some more work here. So let's just show putting an order through without a website set and how that doesn't go through Signifyd. So we'll go ahead and confirm this. Okay, and we'll see that we don't have a smart button for Signifyd. However, we can kind of replicate what that behavior would be like if we did have the ability to set the website on the sale order, which would be as simple as just exposing the website field on that form view. So let's go ahead and duplicate an order here that does have a website set because we placed it through the website, even if we can't see that information. We do see it here. Perfect. So we see that that is set, and we can go ahead and confirm this order. And we will see that we have a Signifyd Smart button. This is a service, so there's no associated delivery order or anything like that that we would have a hold button for. But as soon as we get the score back, then we are good to proceed with this reservation. Actually, let's go ahead and take a peek at Signifyd, and I'll just show you. I mean, we got the score back, so we know it's there. But yeah, that's going to be the same information here. So let's just refresh. Same team that we're filtered to, and we see that new order that we just placed on the admin side that had a website associated with it. All right, so that is all for the Odoo Signifyd connector from Odoo. If you'd like to learn more, please visit our website. We have loads of documentation, video courses, and more. And you'll also see that Signifyd link down there if you would like to get in touch with Signifyd about setting up your own Signifyd account.
See you again on another OXP virtual conference. Let's get right to it with the questions that have been placed here in the chat. And starting off the bank with Antoine. Antoine asked a question in relation to European banks. Odoo has already answered that you work primarily with American companies and American banks, so we'll take that. A question from Martha says, can it work with any bank around the world, or is there a limiting factor?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of a limiting factor in terms of the locale in which Signifyd is used. So what I can say is that on our side, on the Odoo connector implementation piece, we're really collecting the data that's provided and requested by the Signifyd API to pass those details on to them. If there is a limitation in the locales in which it can be used or the banks with which it can detect fraud based on the last four digits of the card, that would be something that would happen on the Signifyd side. So if you are interested in implementing Signifyd and you're in a different part of the world, or you have any concerns about the banks that you might be using to process cards or something along those lines, then I would reach out to Signifyd as part of your sign up process, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions about those limitations.
Great. Let's keep going. Antoine asks if, do you know if some payment methods are more likely than others to trigger a fraud detection?
Great question. So I'm not aware of a particular payment method that would be more likely to trigger fraud than another. However, one thing to keep in mind with Signifyd is really what they're doing is they're capturing a lot of information about the order in terms of the products that are ordered, where it's being delivered to, the last four of the credit card, and they're processing all of this data through their AI and comparing it with other data about your orders, about other places this card may have been used, other orders this customer may have placed to determine if an order is likely to be fraud. So I don't think that the core of if an order is likely to be fraud is really just about the payment method. It's about a variety of factors that come into play when an order is placed.
Got it. That makes sense. Question comes from Leslie. Two-part question. Does everything have to go through the site, number one, and can it be done locally?
Ooh, so does everything have to go through the site? So the Signifyd connector is based on an association with a website. So there are a couple components to this. So if you have multi-website, then you could choose for some of your websites to send their orders through Signifyd and some orders not to go through, or some websites not to send their orders through Signifyd. So you have that ability there to mix and match. You can have different Signifyd connectors for different websites, or one and use it on all or some of your multi websites within Odoo. In terms of admin orders, because they are not normally associated with a website, do not go through Signifyd. However, if you would like your admin orders to go through Signifyd, you can do that by simply associating a website with the admin order, either the same website you use for your e-commerce orders, or you could also make a website to represent the admin orders to connect Signifyd and kind of have that as its own additional kind of channel bucket reporting to send those orders through Signifyd as well. In terms of the ability for it to work locally, it is going to need an internet connection because we do register webhooks and data has to be sent back and forth between Odoo and Signifyd. So if we're talking about it working locally, meaning no internet connection or like connectivity in that way, that wouldn't be possible. However, if you're talking about on your local machine and you set it up and you have access to internet and can still send data back and forth or on premise, then that is totally workable and supported.
Great. And that actually just goes to the second question that Martha had with paying in store or in a local POS. And obviously that there is a ability for that.
So, okay. So I think I might have interpreted that question a little differently. So if you were to pay for an order in point of sale, that wouldn't be associated with a website. So right now that wouldn't go through Signifyd with this connector. That said, in general, physical, there's definitely payment fraud and fraud that happens in physical retail stores as well. However, that does tend to be a lower ratio than orders that are placed in an e-commerce environment because you have to physically have the card in order to make payments at a point of sale terminal.
Got it. Got it. All right. Please feel free to continue with these wonderful questions. I have a quick question in relation to what inspired you to create this. Obviously, fraud detection is important. There's been, last year, we saw an increase of online retailers starting businesses or increasing their retail catalogs. What really inspired you to create this fraud detection application?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Signifyd has been around for, how far back do I want to go in my e-commerce history for this, right? So Signifyd has been around for several years, and some of our clients use Signifyd. We've been familiar with Signifyd for a long time, but there was no solution within Odoo for Signifyd, right? So you could see Signifyd connectors for other e-commerce platforms. And so, we wanted to bring that into the Odoo ecosystem for our clients to use and for others to use it in their projects to kind of bootstrap them and get them these, payment fraud alerts and kind of protections that everybody really needs. But going back even further, we've been working e-commerce for 10, 15 years, and pre-Signifyd, you kind of put together your own rules and try to detect these things and build up your own scores to flag orders. It wasn't uncommon to have, like I said in my talk, an employee who is, going through these kind of pre-made scores from your own rules and trying to detect which ones truly are fraud and which ones aren't fraud. And so what we really see there is a big need, which is that companies were and are dedicating a significant amount of resources to detect this payment fraud. And when somebody comes onto the market that provides functionality to save companies time, save them resources, save them budget, etc., costs, we want to make those resources available for people to use within their Odoo project, because that's what Odoo is all about at its core.
I mean, that makes some sense. All right, we have an excellent question coming up from Antoine. Does it have an impact on the risk score to pay with a card on file, like a payment token, rather than through the payment form, since it makes it a customer-initiated transaction or a merchant-initiated transaction?
Yeah. So as Not on the Odoo side at all. So ultimately, when we're sending the payment details to Signifyd, we're just sending the last four of that payment method. So the payment tokens, again, fully PCI compliant, but we still have that last four of the credit card that we can send through with the order to Signifyd. So because that's the only piece of the credit information or the payment information that we're sending, I don't believe it has any impact whether or not it's the first payment or a saved payment token from a previous order.
Great. Kaylee, thank you so much for sharing all of this wonderful information with Signify and fraud detection. I wish you a lot of continued success, and I hope to see you in person next year after after meeting so many times virtually.
Of course.
Again, to our world community, thank you again for tuning in, and have a great day. Bye-bye.